You each have, I hope, a chair and a roller. Sit facing your chair and organize your chair so that your right foot can be to the right of the back right leg of the chair. Your left foot can be just to the left of the left leg of the chair, the back left leg of the chair. And that's right. And your hands on the back of the chair. And then without the roller to start with, and come to the forward edge of the table, so you're not too far back. Come to that's right. And just slowly tilt your pelvis backwards, meaning you round your back, meaning you go back towards, if you will, depending on your clock, you go back towards 12 o'clock, and then of course you come back to 6 o'clock, if you want to call it, or 12 o'clock, depending on the orientation of your clock. It's of no matter. But you just go between those two cardinal points of rounding your lower back, tilting your pelvis backwards, and then tilting your pelvis so that your tailbone goes back and the top of your pelvis tilts a little forward. That's right. Oh, just you slowly, you do that and observe where you can reduce the effort in your shoulders, your neck, and then you pretty quickly realize that just as I said that the fundamental properties of movement lessons are a paragon example of this oppositional movement, in fact, so it is here that as you tilt your pelvis back and your pubic bone tilts towards your head, you feel that unless you make an effort to inhibit it, your head and neck are rounding, and your chin is coming closer to your throat. And then but without you interfering, and then when you come to where your lumbar spine is arched and your pelvis is tilted forward, you can feel that the sensation of your neck, where your chin is different. In other words, that as your pelvis goes back, your head is going forward. It would be an enormous strain to inhibit your chin from going down as your pelvis rolls back and your lower back gets round. In other words, of course, one can do anything, but the thing that's happening organically is following this notion that as your pelvis goes back, your head is coming forward. In fact, your head is coming forward, your shoulders are going forward relative to where they are when you start. That's right. Now, and just observe the extent to which you feel that your spine is responding to that movement of your pelvis. For some of you, it's a lot, and for some of you, it's very, very little. In other words, that as your lower back gets round, your thoracic spine remains straight, and your head and chin don't descend very much. So don't try to change anything, just feel the extent to which your spine is participating in that movement of your head coming forward, your back getting round, and then your chin coming away from your throat, and your lumbar spine arching. Good. Now, take your roller and see if you can find a way to sit on your roller, and if at any point you feel that the pressure of the relationship between your pelvis and the roller becomes too much, you just take the roller away and rest for a moment. And that's right. You want your knees to be just a little bit below your pelvis. Yep. Now hold on to the chair again, or bring the chair a little closer to yourself if you feel that the chair is pulling you forward. And now see if you can do the same movement. We can call it 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, if you will, but see if you can do that same movement sitting on the roller. That means that as you round your back, the roller rolls backwards a little bit. So in other words, you have to apply enough pressure of your tush on the roller that you roll the roller a little bit backwards, and then you roll the roller a little bit forwards, and as you roll the roller forwards, you get taller. So just see if you can establish that idea that as you get round, you're rounding of tilting your pelvis backwards, meaning that your pubic bone goes toward your nose, that your roller rolls backwards a little bit. And then you roll the roller forward and you get tall, and your lower back arches a little, and your pubic bone tilts toward the floor. So just slowly begin to become more comfortable with that kind of alternating pulse of the rounding and the shortening that happens. Of course, the shortening is in front, isn't it? And then the getting taller as you roll the roller. So it's not that you get taller and your pelvis the roller is static. You actually roll the roller forward and you roll it a little backwards. It rolls a little, you roll the roller forward, so there's some traction between your sit bones and the roller. And you roll the roller forward as you get taller, and you feel that your sternum comes, what Alexander would call forward and up. In other words, your sternum rises a little bit, and then when you roll the roller backwards, you get round, and you feel that in front, your stomach gets shorter. In other words, the distance between your pubic bone and your sternum shortens. Now, just feel how as you roll the roller backwards, your eyes go towards the floor. And when you roll the roller forward, your eyes go toward the horizon. And see if you can breathe simply, easily. If you find that having the feet on either side of the legs of the chair is too wide, you can try and see if you can put your feet between the legs of the chair, but that may be too narrow. Yes, that's right. Now, let's go back to that idea that some parts of your spine are participating easily. In other words, you can feel and you can feel that there's some differentiated or individuated movement of one vertebra from another. And probably that's in your lower back or in your neck. And so now bring your attention to where you imagine your fifth lumbar vertebra is. And slowly, as you roll your roller forward and backwards, you pay attention to that one vertebra as if there was a good, trustworthy friend sitting behind you, and they were to put a finger on that fifth lumbar vertebra so it would like highlight it. And you think of how that one vertebra gets round and then arches a little. When it gets round, you can visualize that the top of that one vertebra tilts backwards. And then when you roll the roller forward, the top of that one vertebra tilts a little bit downwards, goes forward and down, and back and up. That's it. And now go to your fourth lumbar, or where you imagine. Of course, you're using your extraordinary power of extrasensory perception, but you have an idea where that vertebra is. And then if that person's finger, your friend's finger, was behind that vertebra, touching it, well, their finger would move backwards, wouldn't it? That's right. And then when you get taller and you roll the roller forward, that's it. There would be a space between their finger and the vertebra. And you can feel that when the vertebra moves backwards, that one fourth lumbar moves backwards, your stomach gets shorter. Not because you tighten your stomach, but because of the movement of your pelvis. And then when that vertebra, that one fourth lumbar vertebra tilts forward and down, that's right, your stomach relaxes. All right. Now, stop for a moment and just walk around. Give your tush a little rest, but just observe your feeling of standing and the orientation of your head, and just observe if already something is a little different. That maybe the back of your head is a little back, or somehow the distance between your chin and your sternum has increased. And now come back to your roller And slowly, you're holding on to the back of the chair or maintaining contact with the back of the chair so that being upright doesn't become an issue. You don't have to, our attention can be on this very modulated, rhythmic, alternating movement of your spine. And so now move your attention up to where you imagine your third lumbar vertebra is, just bringing your attention to one place. It's not a matter of whether your attention is in the right place or the wrong place. It's in the right place, wherever it is. Because wherever it is, you can feel that you can almost intentionally move that one vertebra backwards. You feel that? You can move your attention to one vertebra and actually, with your intention, with your internal attention, you can actually feel that you're moving that one place and everything else is moving in relationship to that one vertebra. And then move your attention up one more, meaning to your first lumbar, meaning the first rib the first vertebra that doesn't have a pair of ribs attached to it. Just slowly. And you'll gradually begin to realize that with each vertebra, each time you move your attention to a different vertebra, the sensation is different. The experience, the feeling of the movement of that one place is different than the vertebra before. And your breathing is simple. And of course, you're just feeling where can you do less. Now, it's in the thoracic spine that almost all of you are quite limited. In other words, there's much more movement that is possible in your thoracic spine in both directions. Of course, there's a slight convex curve in the thoracic spine, but that doesn't mean that it can't have a few degrees of extension also. Now, you think of your 12th thoracic and slowly move that one vertebra backwards. As you roll the roller backwards, your attention is on that one place. And then you find something interesting, which is that all of you have begun to have your head turned to the right or to the left. You feel, don't change anything. Don't bring your head to the middle. Just see if you can feel that as you give yourself or surrender yourself to the movement of that one vertebra, that 12th thoracic backwards, in order to round yourself, with your attention accentuating the movement of that one particular vertebra, that as your head is descending, it's not in some abstract direction, that actually the movement of that vertebra backwards is pulling your head a little bit to the right or to the left. It happens whether you want it to or not, so don't do anything to stop it. In fact, I would say just go with it, because it means that that's the direction, whatever the direction is, that's the direction that the movement of that one vertebra going backwards is pulling you. And now go to the 11th thoracic. As you still roll your roller forward and roll your roller a little backwards. Of course, you can make it more precise and less precise. But even if it's more precise, it doesn't mean that you don't round that part of your spine. That's right. And it doesn't mean that you forget to roll the roller forward. Okay, walk around again. But first you stand, you come to standing, just appreciate you're shorter or taller. Something is different in the organization of your chest. And if somehow standing more over your heels, Dr. Feldenkrais would often direct us to sense if weight was more over the back of our heels. Well, if that's so, then something has gone backwards. What has gone forward? Is it the chest, the sternum? And if the chest is forward, what else has come a little backwards? Okay, come back to your roller. And now think of your, where are we? Your 10th thoracic vertebra, which means that's the first vertebra where the ribs that are attached to that vertebra come all the way around to connect in the sternum. This is unimportant, except that, of course, the ribs have an inhibitory effect on the movement of the thoracic vertebra. But now you think of directing that vertebra to go, the spinous process of that vertebra to go backwards toward your friend's finger. And then that vertebra goes forward. And it may be a slightly smaller movement forward than the vertebra that was below, but still, you can feel that if you intentionally think of that vertebra going forward, just what's easy for you, nothing that causes you any strain at all, you find, oh, that it's that movement is continuous with the bending of the lumbar spine. In other words, the arching of the lumbar spine. In other words, that there is some arching that's available to you in the thoracic spine. But of course, it's easier to accentuate the rounding of that point. And now move your attention up. And you do 2 or 3 movements, paying attention to one vertebra. Exhaling as you get round. And again, with the idea of rolling your roller a little bit. And feel if you can let go in your neck, your throat, and allow your head to come down. There's no reason to keep your back straight. In other words, you are intentionally rounding and arching. You find that there are paradoxes abounding in the Feldenkrais method, both in the practice from the point of view of a practitioner and from the point of view of movement. That here, in order to become tall, in order to arch your back, you'll find that it's easier to round your back first. And if you round your back and give to it, you find that then it's easier to get taller and to arch your back. That's right. You'll find that the more you give to that rounding, the more you give completely to it, the more you'll begin to individuate vertebrae that maybe have been practically glued together for years. Holding yourself in some way to be socially acceptable or present yourself with a particular social or occupational status, which of course you can continue to do. But here, maybe you can allow your spine to get even rounder, and then suddenly you'll find that 2 vertebrae that were adhered to each other, glued together, suddenly begin to move separately. That's right. Then you find that each vertebra has the extent to which it can round and arch. And you find some of you are keeping your nose and your eyes forward, meaning that the rounding is not spreading to your neck. Why can't your nose descend? And then you find if you allow your nose and your forehead to go down, well, then that vertebra, wherever you are, your 6th or your 5th thoracic, your 4th, it goes back more easily. And then you realize that the entire spine is making like a bow. Is making, that's right. And then when you get taller, you realize the entire spine is becoming concave. It's like the bow is has been drawn. That's it. And you find that the more you think of the each point in your spine going forward, your eyes begin to rise past the horizon. In other words, you're being lifted. The distal is being lifted by the proximal. Now, Moshe makes a very strident and point, and he repeats it many times, that because of the powerfulness of the muscles attached to the pelvis, that the movement of the pelvis is much smaller than the movement of the head in regards to this oppositional idea. He throws out a ratio, and who knows if it's true, but he said that if the head moves 10 degrees, the pelvis only moves 1 degree. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't think he knew if it was accurate, but the idea that they're in some kind of a ratio, and that the pelvis, in fact, moves less backwards than the head is moving forward, that seems logical. Now, those vertebrae of your upper neck, your lower neck and your upper thoracic spine, for most people, there's nil movement there. Very, very little. But you see, if with your attention you can begin, you think of maybe the second thoracic vertebra, right? And you begin to think of that vertebra, and you realize if you think of it moving forward, then the back of your head goes backwards. Of course, it's not just the vertebra that's going forward, is it? Of course, your chest is going forward, your chest is getting wider in front, your stomach is coming forward. And then you get round and you intentionally move that second thoracic vertebra, or the first, backwards, which you can only do through the participation of your head descending and getting round. All right, maybe stop again, give your tush a little rest, come to standing, and just observe. You could think that in this rounding and arching, somehow there's a finding on the part of your nervous system in standing of a balance point. In other words, if you don't do anything to try and be in a good posture, where does your spine come to? And you find that maybe there's a little more arch in your lower back, or maybe your chest is a little wider. And maybe walk around for a moment. And just observe the feeling of yourself, your hip joints, And maybe in fact you feel, oh, the back of my head is more back, or my weight is more over my heels. Not because I was trying to achieve that or actualize it. Not because you're holding yourself according to some prescription or idea, image of posture, how you should stand. All right, and come back. Sit on your roller. And now you only have the vertebra of your neck left. So now you slowly, you think of the 7th cervical or the 6th, wherever you left off, and you go backwards. And of course you get round, and of course you can feel that vertebra moves backwards. And then when you reach the point at which you feel that one vertebra has moved as far back as it's going to go. See, it's not just a matter of lowering your head. It's a matter of imagining of intentionally bringing your attention to that one vertebra, and almost as if you're directing it backwards. And then when you roll the roller forward and arch the back, you can think of that one vertebra coming forward. And it's interesting, because then you'll feel that you spontaneously get taller. It's not a matter of thinking of getting taller or wanting to get taller, but in fact that good organization or better organization can be elicited quite clearly. And in fact, it can be elicited from any one vertebra. And just slowly again go up your cervical spine, maybe 2 or 3 times each vertebra. And again, you'll feel that maybe your chin gets pulled to the right or to the left. But don't stop it. Don't try to correct anything. Just use your attention to mobilize from that one point, that one vertebra going backwards and forwards. Of course, it provokes your entire spine to get taller and shorter. In other words, somebody standing and looking at you, watching, they wouldn't know which vertebra your attention was on, probably. Each movement would have to their naive eye, would have a similar quality. But you know that one movement was initiated in one place, and another movement was initiated from somewhere else. Now, as you do that, see if you can now turn your attention to thinking of the movement when you are at your most round. Think of the movement starting in your 4th, 5th lumbar vertebra and moving up up in a sequential way, like all the way up to the top of your head, the crown of your head. And then when you get round, you start from the crown of your head, and you slowly get round one vertebra at a time until you get to your fifth lumbar and your sacrum. And then you reverse the whole thing, beginning as if it's a worm-like movement, but it's not worm-like, it's human-like. And that's right, you relax your shoulders. But now it's as if that person watching would see that the movement begins in your pelvis and your lower back, and it moves up. And then they realize that when you start getting round, it started with your head dropping, 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 until your chin is really resting on your sternum. That's right. Your feet remain flat on the floor the whole time. Another reason for having a lower table. And now when you lower your head and you round yourself, close your mouth. And then when you begin to arch your pelvis, your lower back, and come up, open your mouth. And see if the opening of your mouth allows you to bring the back of your head a little further back. That's right. And now, as you arch your back and open your mouth, stick out your tongue. And then when you start to get round from the top of your head, bring your tongue in and close your mouth. And again, notice that your chin isn't in the middle. And as we said, don't correct that. Don't bring your chin to the middle, because then you'll be in contradiction to yourself. Very good. And maybe come up to stand again. And observe. Again, just your standing, you're neutral. If you feel the dimensionalities of the back of your head, the sides of the back of your head, the way in which the arch in your neck mimics the arch in your lumbar spine. And again, walk around.